All right, we will get started. Hello everyone. Welcome to our Life Sci Biochem Direct Entry webinar. We're so happy to have you here. Next slide, please. Or maybe not if there's not a... Yeah, that's okay. I'll just go ahead quickly first with a quick land acknowledgement to acknowledge the history of the land on which Queen's University is located. As Canadians, we have a collective responsibility to recognize the injustices committed against Indigenous peoples who have lived on and cared for this land long before the arrival of European settlers. Queen's campus is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The Kingston area, originally known as Cataraqui, has been home to Indigenous communities for thousands of years and remains a place of significance and ongoing relationships for many Indigenous peoples today. As a student, I'm grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and study as an uninvited guest on this territory. It's important to understand that Queen's, like many institutions in Canada, was established through colonial systems that displaced Indigenous communities. As a settler and a guest, I carry a responsibility to reflect on that history and to contribute to a more just, inclusive, and respectful future. If this is new to you or you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. Thank you for taking a moment to reflect with me. Now to introduce myself, my name is Tate. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm one of the peer ambassadors with SOAR this year. I'm going into my 4th year of the Life Sciences major program, and I'll pass it off to our other peer ambassador.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am another one of the peer ambassadors with SOAR this year. I'm in my 3rd year studying life science and a specialization in cardiorespiratory sciences. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Student Experience Office website and YouTube channel within the next few business days. If you have any questions or concerns during this webinar, use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to our presenters. Go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. So glad that you're here with us today to learn about registering in your courses so that you're all set for the fall to begin in your degree programs. Before we get jumping right into the registration process, we just wanted to let you know a little bit about the structure of the Life Sciences Biochemistry programs and the individuals that will be kind of helping you throughout your degree. So we do have an Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies for the Biochemistry, Life Sciences, and Health Sciences programs. And from there, we have the Director of Life Sciences, which is myself. So I'm Dr. Jeannie Mulder. And we also have with us tonight the Director of Biochemistry, Dr. Laura Van Staalduinen. And she will be speaking a little bit later on in the presentation today. We also have a Programs Manager for the Biochemistry, Life Sciences, and Health Sciences programs, and her name is Elena Korchinski. And if you haven't received an email from Elena yet, you will receive emails from her throughout your degree. She's a really great resource and is quite involved with our different programs. We also have 2 program assistants that help along the way, and they're usually the first line of contact when you email the Life Sci and Biochem emails that I'll talk about in a second. But currently those 2 positions are vacant because of some retirements that we've had. So we're in the process of filling those program assistant positions so that they're ready to go in September. Between now and then, it'll likely be Elena that will be answering those emails. So throughout your program and throughout your degree, if you do have specific questions about life sciences or about biochemistry or advising within these programs, please feel free to contact us. And so that's through the lifesci@queensu.ca email address or the biochem@queensu.ca email address, and we will respond to you. Please use your Queen's email address, your new Queen's email account, and provide your student number. And that just facilitates things for us if Dr. Van Staalduinen or myself have to look up any information specific to your profile. Okay, so that's our structure. And now on to the congratulations. So you've matriculated through our admissions process. You have a student number. You are officially a Queen's student. So welcome, welcome, welcome to your first year of your Bachelor of Science in the Life Sciences or Biochemistry at Queen's University. So next slide. So as mentioned already, there will be time at the end for question and answer, and you can ask questions through the chat as well, and we'll try to answer those to the best that we can throughout this. And as mentioned, we're your program directors. There's also academic advising leads and academic advisors from the Faculty of Arts and Sciences here, and some current life sciences students here to answer your questions and during the Q&A at the end. Okay, so your first year registration guide. This is a really important tool, and we hope that you have all been using it or looking at it so far. It is a step-by-step guide for your first year registration process. So we just have this here to remind you about it. We will be referring to this a bit throughout the talk today, but there's a QR code here to access it, and that's the link to get there as well. Next slide. Okay, so some of you may be wondering, what are all these different terms? What is a program? What is a plan? What is a term? And what is a unit? These are very common terminology that are used within a university degree at Queen's. And so on the next slide, I'll just be defining all of those. So what is a program? The program is your degree, so your Bachelor of Science and Honors. Okay, and then the next one is, what is your plan? That's your major or concentration in life sciences or biochemistry. What is a unit? So in general, and we'll talk about this in just a little bit on the next slides, a unit, so in general, you need 120 units to graduate with a Bachelor of Science honors degree, and that typically takes 4 years. We have one term, which is about 3 units, and 2 terms is 6 units. So typically, if you have a course that is a fall course, that's a 3-unit course. If you have a course that is a full year course, so it goes fall and winter, that is a 6-unit course. This is not always the case throughout the entire degree, but the units are the number of units for each course, and you typically need about 120 to graduate. So that leads to the last one, a term. What is a term? This is also called a semester or a session. And you can have fall, winter, summer. So those are the different terms we have within the school year. Okay, so those are all those. One thing we wanted to let you know is that there is this new modular plan framework within Queen's, which means that there's some flexibility in what you do or what you choose to do afterwards. So this is after your first year is completed and you're kind of decided if you're in life sci or biochemistry, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But in terms of long-term planning, there are a variety of options. So typically, again, you need about 120 units to graduate with a Bachelor of Science honors degree. You can decide if you want to do a major and a minor, if you want to do a double major, if you want to do a major and 2 minors, or if you want to do a subject of specialization, or another option is a subject of specialization with a minor. Okay, so that's what Queen's means when they refer to a modular plan framework, is you can decide which of those kind of options speaks to you the most. And the number of electives, which you can see in the green there, the number of electives you take is going to vary depending on if you're doing a double major versus a major minor versus an SSP. So SSP is subject of specialization. And so if you're doing a double major, you will have less electives or less choice than if you do a major minor. So, and we'll talk about the electives and different options in a second. A really important thing just to notice with this one is for life sciences and biochemistry, if you do a double major or you do a specialization with a minor, you will likely be required to take more than the typical 120 units to be able to graduate. So to be able to get all of the required courses for whichever your double major or SSP and minor is that you decide to do, you may need more than 120 units. So just keep that in mind for future planning. Reach out to academic advisors or within life sciences and biochemistry, and we can help you with that. Okay. So How does first year work for the direct entry life sciences and biochemistry programs? You are already eligible to be in either of these programs. So don't worry at all about whether you want to be in one versus the other. You don't have to make that decision until the end of your first year. Okay, so all of the core courses that you're being enrolled in, and again, I'll talk about core courses in just a few slides, all of those courses make you eligible for life sciences and biochemistry. So that choice comes later on. So after May, next May, once you've completed your first year courses, you will need to select your major or SSP, which I said is subject of specialization plan, as life sciences or biochemistry. And we just want to make sure you're aware you can also still switch into another science program in the Faculty of Arts and Science. So say you go through it and you decide you really don't want to be in life sciences or biochemistry anymore. We hope that's not the case, but if that ends up being the case, that's completely fine. You can switch into another program. And in that sense, we'd ask that you just make sure you reach out to an academic advisor within the Faculty of Arts and Sciences to make sure that you know all the ins and outs of what needs to happen for that. Okay, how does your first year in life sciences biochemistry work? So I mentioned you're going to have core courses. These are courses that you have to take. So they're requirements, you need them to graduate. You absolutely have to take those courses. There's also option courses. So this is when you have a list of courses and you can select a few, however many we define, but you select some out of that list. So you don't have to complete everything in that list, but you choose which ones you want to out of that list. And then you also have electives. And so electives, you can choose from other programs and within Faculty of Arts and Sciences. And you can even take a few units from other faculties as well. And then again, at the very end of the year is when you select your plan as life sciences or biochemistry. And I believe at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Van Staalduinen to get into the nitty-gritty of choosing your first year classes.
Thank you, Dr. Mulder. So I am Dr. Laura Van Staalduinen. I'm the director of the biochemistry program, and I also get the pleasure of teaching the first year Biochem 102 option course. So some of you will be seeing me in the fall term. And so I want to talk to you about how do you choose your first year classes. So as a direct entry life science biochemistry student, it's a bit of a good thing. We have a lot of required courses in the first year, so there's not a ton of choice. So we've got things pretty down pat for you. But a glimpse of what your schedule is going to look like, and then we'll talk about what options you have and choices you have in a little bit. So in the fall term, you will be taking Biology 102, Physics 115, Math 130, Chemistry 112, and maybe Biochem 102. We'll come back to that one. And then in the winter term, in the red box below, we have your winter term courses. So you'll be taking another Biology 103, a computer science course, the rest of chemistry. So chemistry is a full year course, so you will have it all year long, scheduled at the same time, so you'll know exactly where you're going to be for the entire year. And in the winter term, there is the option of taking Path 120. So as life sci biochemistry students, the option courses, you get a choice in first year of taking either Biochemistry 102 in the fall or Path 120 in the winter. You don't have to take both. And it's completely up to you which one interests you more, which one you're going to take. So depending on your choice, that's going to impact your schedule a little bit. Because Biochem 102 is offered in the fall, you'll take that in the fall term, and that would open up 2 elective spots in your winter term. So this lets you take 2 courses of your choosing, with electives being anything that interests you. If you want to learn a language, or if you're super into math, you can take some extra math courses. Anything that you have the prerequisites for is open to you as an elective. On the other end, if you choose to take Path 120 instead, it's in the winter term. And so it would mean that you would have an elective course in the fall term and an elective in the winter term for you to take. And so those are kind of the choices that you have at this point. To help you out with enrollment, as well as help us out with enrollment, you're actually what we call block enrolled or pre-enrolled into your core courses. So when you go into Solus and look at your timetable, you should see that you are already enrolled in biology, chemistry, math, physics, and computer science. And then the only courses that you have to choose and enroll in yourself are the option course, Biochem 102 or Path 120, and your elective courses. And so we've broken this down into a bit of a to-do list for right now, because we know it is a lot to think about. You probably already have already done this, but you should check your enrollment appointment time for July 22nd. So in Solus, you will have been given an appointment time on July 22nd for when you're going to enroll. If you can't personally be there to click the button, find someone you trust, your parent, someone like that, to do it for you so that you can get enrolled in your courses, because the appointment times don't change. Have a look at what your timetable looks like in Solus. Because you're pre-enrolled in many of your courses, your timetable is kind of already available to you. So you can take a look at when your courses are, and then look at when Biochem 102 and Path 120 are offered, see how they fit, think about which one you want to take, make your choice. If you do find that there is a conflict between the option course that you wish to take and one of the courses you're already enrolled in, you can reach out to the PASS team at passhelp@queensu.ca, and they can see if there's anything that can be done about that conflict. And then last but not least, you get to go shopping. Shop for your electives, look at all the different courses that are available, and think about which electives you wish to take. And so over the years, we have collected a few notes of things that we want to make sure that we get across to you. And they're in no particular order here, but we do have some notes that we want to share with you. So the first one is, we talked about units, and that there's different unit weightings for different courses and that sort of thing. In your first year, if you take all of the courses that I outlined a couple slides ago, that's 30 units total. In order for you to be able to choose biochem or life science, and whether you want to do a major or specialization, at the end of your first year, you need to have completed a minimum of 24 units. So if you're choosing to defer a course to later or something like that, make sure you're hitting that minimum of 24 units in order to declare your plan at the end of first year. And speaking of considering deferring courses till later, we do want to talk about a few courses and maybe not, well, no, strongly recommend that you don't defer them. So chemistry and biology are prerequisite courses for a lot of our upper year courses. So you really should not delay taking them. Take them in your first year in order to progress through your plan in the regular time frame. Another note for you is that if you're seriously considering biochemistry, you will need the math for entry into the second year chemistry requirements of biochemistry. And so you'll want to make sure you do the math in your first year. Now, physics is a course that isn't a direct prerequisite for the core courses in life science and biochemistry. It's very helpful knowledge-wise in terms of progressing through, but it's not a direct prerequisite. So it is a course that can be deferred. However, we do want to let you know that it can be hard to fit into upper year schedules. Because of the way scheduling works, it often conflicts with some core courses in the upper year life sci and biochemistry programs. So just be aware that if you do decide to wait to take physics, you might have to play some Tetris to get it into your schedule in an upper year. Another note, if you want to take upper year psychology courses, You'll want to take Psychology 100 or Psych 100 in your first year to open up those courses. So it's a prerequisite for all of those upper year psych courses. So if you're considering a psychology minor or anything like that, make sure you take Psych 100 as your elective course. And then just a little note that typically students will take 5 classes per term. And in your first year, the way your schedule is going to look is in the morning, you'll be at Duncan MacArthur Hall on West Campus taking your lectures, attending your lectures. And then you'll come back to main campus for the afternoon where you'll do your lab and tutorial sessions. And kind of that'll be your day in a nutshell. And then here in my blue box, so that it's really clear, I do want to reiterate a theme that we hope is coming across, in that we're here to help both our program office, our program team, as well as the academic advisors from Faculty of Arts and Science. Throughout your time here, either during this first enrollment period, but also during the year, during the term, if you have questions or need to make changes to your schedule, don't hesitate to reach out and ask them. Get the help that you need and make sure you're checking in. There's a lot of expertise amongst all of us. And so we can often point out things that would make your life easier and make things go smoother for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or concerns. Okay, so our registration timeline. July 14th has somehow already come and gone. And this was the day that you could start logging into Solus, seeing your enrollment appointment time, and also begin loading what we call your shopping cart with the courses you wish to take. You can also see the courses that you've been pre-enrolled in. So you should see all those core courses that I talked about already loaded into your timetable for you. July 22nd is the big day where all first-year students will be logging into Solus at their indicated time to enroll in their courses. So close your shopping cart, click enroll. A few other key dates to keep in mind. So July 22nd, you have your enrollment appointment. Then at noon on July 29th, there's going to be an open enrollment for all Bachelor of Science students, so all of you. In the first year arts and science courses. So open enrollment for all first year students in first year courses. July 30th is what we call a registration pause day. So we're going to take a breath. There's no activity. No one can do anything in Solus as things are run in the back end. And then on July 31st to August 3rd, that's going to be the second enrollment. So you'll have two enrollment times. One of them will be a specific time on the 22nd, and then the 31st to the 3rd is your second enrollment. And this is open for all Faculty of Arts and Science. That's what FAS stands for. And during this enrollment, first year students no longer have priority for first year classes. So try to get things worked out before this second enrollment period. From August 4th to the 17th, this is what we call the enrollment hiatus. So there's no activity possible by anyone. So this is a pause, it's a break for everyone. Often a few of us take our vacation during this time, so we get a bit of a break while we're not needed. So if you're looking at things and you need something done, it's gonna have to wait until August 17th. Or August 18th, I guess, before anything can change. August 18th is where open enrollment, this is a free-for-all. So everyone can enroll in whatever they have the prerequisites for and there is space in. And then the really exciting day, September 2nd, is the first day of classes. So we will be meeting on campus, starting our classes off on September 2nd. Final date I have for you is to keep in mind is September 16th. So this will be the last day to add a full year course, I should say, to your timetable. After this point, you won't be able to add a course. So, if you're on a wait list for a course, something like that, you have until September 16th to move up the wait list and get into the course. All right, a lot of this I've already said, but it's good. Repetition is good because I know there's a lot of information. So you are block enrolled in your courses. The core courses, the technically switches are possible for your sections. We ask that you do not drop a core course. If you need to change the time for any reason, do not drop the course. There is a swap feature, but the best thing to do is to reach out to Pass Advising to make sure that everything is okay, so that if you accidentally drop the course, we cannot guarantee we can get you back into the course because there are wait lists and that sort of thing. So don't drop a core course. Reach out for help if you need it. And if you are going to do anything, use what's called the swap feature in Solus. When you're looking at your timetabling and scheduling your courses, don't forget to look at your lab and tutorial section times. For many of the courses, you'll have a time scheduled for both a tutorial and a lab, and you need to attend both of those. So make sure you're paying attention to all of those times as you're looking at different schedulings. Also, as you're building your timetable, this is a big one for me. Make sure you're building in time to eat and to take breaks. You may, if you look at your timetable, you may already see you have courses that are back to back, say a course that runs from 1:30 to 2:30 and another course that runs from 2:30 to 3:30. We do not expect you to be in two places at once. All Queen's courses will end 10 minutes before the time it says in your timetable. So if it says it's going to end at 2:30, the class will end at 2:20, giving you 10 minutes to get to a 2:30 start class. So we start on the time that it says in the timetable, but it will end 10 minutes before to give you time to move to where you need to be. The other thing to pay attention to as you're building your timetable is pay attention to which term things are being offered, whether it's fall or winter, and whether you have a choice between those two terms. Okay, so just one last note for me before I pass it off to a Solus expert. Dr. Mulder started off talking about using your Queen's email account. I just want to finish with reminding you that you are now a Queen's student, and if you're talking Queen's things, you need to use your Queen's email account. So make sure you are using that for communicating with your instructors, your TAs, the program office. Whenever you need to send an email about something Queen's related, make sure you're using that Queen's account. It's a secure email, and it ensures that we know you are who you say you are. And make a habit of checking the email regularly as well, because this is how communications will come to you from our program office. We have a newsletter that goes out every month that talks about important need to know timelines, that sort of thing, as well as highlights interesting courses or the cool things all of our wonderful students are doing. And so if you want to be up to date on all of that, you do need to check your Queen's email and read that. So if you haven't already done so, go to queensu.ca, click sign in, and you'll be able to access your email from there. And so now I'm going to pass it off to Catherine, who is going to talk to us a bit more about the kind of technical side of Solus.
Frantically typing my last answer there in the Q&A. Thanks for all the good questions that are coming up. That's great. All right, so let's have a look at Solus. So as you're thinking through the strategy of how to choose your courses, after you've got all that done, you've got your options, you're going to want to put them in. So if you go to the queensu.ca page, you will see there's a little sign in button right at the top corner there. So click into that, and that's going to take us to access the Solus Student Center. Next slide. There we go. So I do when you click on My Queen's U, Solus, My HR and More, that is going to take you to the Student Center. This is a great hub of resources and applications that you can use. I do encourage you to explore that at some point in the coming days. But for now, we're going to go up to that top corner where it says Solus, and that's where we are going to sign in. Okay, so this little widget guy at the top corner is going to, that's going to take you to all the functionality within Solus. So once we click on that, you'll be able to start by viewing your enrollment time. So maybe this is something that some of you haven't already done. You can see this by going to Manage Classes, then click on Enrollment Dates and on 2025 Fall. And from there, it's going to list your date as July 22nd, and in the details, it's going to confirm the specific time. Some of you were asking about a little clarification on those, why do we have two enrollment times? So everybody in arts and science, regardless of their degree, regardless of their year, is going to have that open enrollment date also highlighted. But the first one, the one that's going to come up next week, this is the key one where you're going to want to add your remaining courses. So once we go to add classes, we're going to click on Class Search and Enroll. You can see that there at the top. And click on the term that you're registering for. For any full year courses, you should register in the fall term, and Solus is automatically going to add the corresponding winter term half for you. In case you're curious, both of those, when you add a full year course, both of the halves do have to stay on the same schedule. So you can't take, Chemistry 112 with a section in the one section in the fall and a different kind of scheduled section in the winter. They do have to be the same one. So you'll have to make sure that it fits. To change terms, at the top of the screen, you can just click on Change. And once you're in the term that you want to register for, click again on Class Search and Enroll, and then on Additional Ways to Search. All right, so then next, these additional ways to search, this is the easiest way to find the courses that you're looking for. Click on the subject. You can scroll down and see all of the different subject areas listed that you could be curious about, and then select which one you want. Once you have selected that area on the next screen, you'll see that this is going to retrieve a list of all of the courses in that subject offered in that particular term that you've selected. The first year classes are always listed first, so that's convenient for you. And to the left of the screen, you can see an option there, a section that's called Course Career. So if you click on Undergraduate, that's going to filter the list to show only courses available to undergraduate on-campus students. That's you. If you click on Undergraduate Online, it will retrieve the list of online classes. This was something that also has come up in the chat a bit. You are able to take online classes, and we know that sometimes that can be an ideal way to get that specific course that you wanted and still work within your timetable. Overall, though, we do recommend that first-year students prioritize on-campus classes if at all possible. You'll see that you can also filter by 3 or 6 unit classes, and the class status will let you filter which sections still have space. So open classes, this is the default. If you wanted to look for something that maybe later on in registration and a class had a wait list spot, but the seats were filled, but you could still get on the wait list, then you could unselect that open class filter and see the waitlisted classes as well. Okay, so once you select the specific course, Solus is now going to pull up all of the possible ways that you could take this course. So here we see a number of different options that a student could select if they're taking Biology 102. So I know this particular course isn't one that you have to worry about because you're already pre-scheduled, but the principle is going to be the same. So these are different combinations of lectures with their corresponding lab sections. And you can see that for each element of the course, Solus is giving you details like the days and times, the location, the number of open spaces in the lecture or the lab. And Solus is going to make sure that it's like a package deal so that you're enrolled in all of the elements that the course requires. All right, next one. Once you've selected the sections of the course that you want, Solus is going to show it to you again to confirm. If you're adding an arts class some arts classes or social sciences, humanities, some you may be able to add right on your enrollment time. But if it is one of those courses that's been held as a priority for Bachelor of Arts honors students at first, and you have to wait until July 29th rolls around to get formally in the class, you do want to toggle that waitlist option over to yes. And then you can click on accept. All right, and next one. Yeah, so if you're working on this part this week, you'll be selecting add to shopping cart and then clicking next in the top there. And then one more review, one more look over. Solus really, really wants to make sure that you're sure. And then after that, when your enrollment time arrives next week, then you can go straight to your shopping cart where you've already loaded up all this good stuff. You can select the courses on the far left column and then click the enroll button. All right, so next one, what if something doesn't work? So you've tried to add your classes and you got an error message. Have a look to see what Solus is telling you, because it will give you some instructions of what's happened here. Is there a conflict in the timetable? Were you trying to add a course that's currently reserved for students in another degree program or type? Was a class or a section, like maybe the lecture has space, but that lab that you were looking at was full? Or maybe it's something that you don't satisfy the prerequisite for. That's not something you should see so much in your first year classes, but it might come up. It might come up in maybe your upper years. But try and see what Solus is telling you. And if you're not sure about how to interpret the message Solus is giving you, that's a really good time to give our registration hotlines a quick call to find out what's going on, and we can either troubleshoot some solutions or see if we can find some alternatives. All right, and next one. So once you do that troubleshooting, everything's all in place, you can have one last look over and make sure, is it all in place the way you want it to be? Do you have 5 classes per term? Do you have your back-to-back classes? As we mentioned, that's totally fine. You got that transit time to go from one to the other, as long as the back-to-back aren't one on West Campus at Duncan MacArthur Hall and one at a building on main campus. So either on main or either on Duncan MacArthur Hall, totally, totally fine. Do you have breaks? Is this a human survivable schedule with time for you to have a drink or have some food and visit the gym? And do you have gateway courses? If you were thinking of a minor or you were thinking of some other plan combination, have you selected those kind of courses that are going to leave those options open for you when you get to the end of your first year? All right, next. So this is something that again came up a few times already, and we may, if what we say here doesn't answer all your questions about AP and IB, let us know, because it's something we could address in the verbal Q&A as well. This is a common question that comes up. So if you have a university equivalent course that was taken before you became a Queen's student, then you can apply for transfer credit for that through the Office of Admission. So this includes AP, IB, A-level, Cambridge Pre-U, French Baccalaureate. For more information, go to the admission page. You can do a search for transfer credits and you'll find out what to do for that. One thing to keep in mind, and I might also feel free, Dr. Mulder or Dr. Van Staalduinen, to jump in and speak to this from a Life Sci Biochem specific perspective. But often in arts and science in general, we would say that it's usually best to use those credits to help lighten your course load in an upper year. So maybe to give yourself a little bit more elective breadth, not necessarily to lighten first year or to skip over those level 1 courses and go right into second year courses in your first year at Queen's, but to give yourself a little bit of breathing room in an upper year. There are, and depending on what AP or IB credits you have and how you wanted to use them, it's also good to know that that they're not usually used as gateway courses for plan placement. So for example, if you had a psychology credit from AP and you were interested in taking more psychology or maybe doing a minor in psych, you would need to take the Psych 100 course from Queen's regardless. Now, remember that even if those units aren't being used, the AP ones that you're transferring over, the fact that you have that higher level educational academic experience already under your belt is going to be a real strong advantage for you. So it's still very much worth it to take that course. Deadline for applying for those credits is going to be end of December 2025. So good to get on that fairly quickly before the term starts, and it could be an easy thing to slip out of your mind. Yeah. So any other thoughts on using AP and IB, etc. from this direct entry kind of perspective? Or does that kind of line up with what?
Yeah, what you said really
Mhm.
does line up with my thoughts on it, at least. It's good for opening up some extra electives or like space in your upper year schedule if you need that extra elective. And then I just a note that if you are thinking of jumping ahead to second year requirements, there are reserves for second year courses, or sorry, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, no, you're
Restrictions
right.
on second
Yeah.
year courses for second year students. So it would require special permission probably for many courses to take the upper year without having done the first year, just because you're still a first year student. And yeah, the kind of the first year courses, even when you have AP or IB, it's still a good transition because they are first year courses. So they're tailored to students who are adjusting to university life, which can be a good thing.
And you can take that as a win for, if that's going to make life easier in your first year and maybe help boost your grades a little bit and ease that transition, then that's a great benefit to have. All right, speaking of boosts and benefits, the next slide is about a course that you could start even now if you want. So this is called Academics 101. This is not something that would be part of your units for your degree or that's going to sit on your official transcript, but this is an interactive set of preparatory lessons. It's a resource that's going to introduce incoming undergrad students like you to the key learning and writing and thinking skills that you're going to need to succeed at Queen's. So you can learn about university academics, reflect on your goals and plans for the year ahead, receive some feedback. You can do the whole course or individual subsections as you like. I know there are some instructors of first year courses in the Faculty of Arts and Science who might recommend or even require that some sections of this course be done as part of their own coursework. So this is a great way to get a bit of a head start even now. Okay. Oh, yes. Perfect. So that was a lot of information, and I know we've been typing fast and furious on that Q&A as well. What if you still need some more help? We've got one more day of this week before registration, and we are going to make the best use of it. You can see in that second bullet there, we're having a full day drop-in advising session on Zoom, hosted by me. You might actually see me again if you come to that. We've got 4 advisors on in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, and we will be going from 9 to noon and 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern time. The link to access the online queue to come speak to an advisor if you need to, you can find on the SOAR page and on that first year registration guide. We also have the first year hotline already available and running afternoons only through this week. So you're welcome to call that tomorrow afternoon if you wish. And the registration assistants, like Katie, the past advisor who's been answering a lot of your questions in the chat, can also answer your questions through passhelp@queensu.ca. And then once we get into the thick of things, next week during registration. Again, the first year registration guide is going to have a lot of information. It's a wonderful place to start, so we really do highly recommend that. But the first year hotline will be running not just afternoons, but all day through the registration period. And we'll have some lunch hour drop-in advising as well, and the link will be on the first year guide and on our advising page to come and chat with us then. All right. So we do have some time for some Q&A to maybe talk about some of the things that are coming up in the chat there that are common questions or ones we think are really key. I'm gonna have a look through here.
Dr. Vance,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, Dr. Van Staalduinen, there's a couple at the very top that are related. One about taking a different math other than 130, or taking, say, math 126 or phys 104, and how that would work in terms of setting them up for a minor in statistics or something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was driving the slides, so I couldn't also watch the chat. So you can take the more focused, let's say, courses in math and physics. I'm not familiar with math 126 off the top of my head, but physics 104 certainly can meet the requirements for physics. So if you're choosing to do a physics minor or really, really into physics, you can take physics 104. And then we just have to make sure Solus knows that it's okay to take that instead of physics 115. So yes, long story short, you can take the kind of more focused courses in math and physics. It's always good to double check specifically, especially because I'm blanking on what math 126 is at the moment.
I can fill in that blank actually. Math 126 is a full year calculus course that's designed for students in an economics plan an economics specialization. Yeah. Same with 127 and 128, which is kind of like the split version of that.
Okay. Do we have any other commonly asked questions that people have seen in the chat that maybe we should speak to the whole group?
I did see a few questions about struggling to find electives and wondering if there are any recommendations for those. Some students are wondering about taking health science courses as electives and if that's possible in first year. I know it's not possible to take other faculty courses like law and commerce in first year, but if you can maybe speak to health sci or other options.
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, many of the health sci courses, I think I saw a Nat 100 as one that was maybe mentioned and then Bar 100 as well, are typically open. It depends on the section and the space availability, whether you'll be able to enroll in those.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so common ones, Bar 100 and Nat 100, Psych 100, first year English course sometimes students take as well. And there are quite a few questions in here about restrictions on those courses in terms of letting health sci students in first. And so for a lot of these courses, just to clarify, students are asking the difference between online courses and blended courses. So a lot of these health sciences courses have an online option course and a blended option course. So the online course is 100% online. Everything is through the platform on Q. There's no kind of synchronous online sessions where you have to be in a specific place at a specific time. So it's done through discussion boards and assessments that way. Those courses typically have much higher enrollment because you're not limited by space. Then there are the blended courses. So a Nat 100, FAR 100 both have blended option courses, which are in-person courses They're identical to the online courses in terms of content. You go through the content before coming to class in the same, we call them online modules. And then you come to class once a week, and usually the assessments and discussion and active learning occurs in those classes. So for the most part, with the health psych courses like INAT and FAR, the in-person classes are reserved for the health sciences students, but there are many, many students from other programs that take the online offerings of those. And sometimes you can get into the in-person ones as well. It's just pretty tricky in first year.
Sorry, my cat's come to visit here. There was a question. Oh, yes. What is a tutorial? Could you talk a little bit about the difference between tutorials, labs, lectures, how that fits together?
Yeah, okay. I can talk about that a little bit. So for specifically for some of the courses like chemistry and biology, sometimes you will have a lecture and a tutorial and a lab. So lectures are generally when you go for an hour to a designated classroom, and the professor will give you content on a specific subject within that course. And then when you have a tutorial, that's often when there's some sort of homework or problem solving or assignment questions, and you kind of get together and with smaller groups and teaching assistants, which are often graduate students, that kind of help you work through some of the content and apply some of the content that you may have learned in lecture. And then labs are the hands-on components where you often are doing, so in the context of chemistry, you're doing kind of chemistry experiments with lab materials, and you're in a smaller group, again, with teaching assistants and the professors, and doing experiments in that sense. So those are some of the differences there.
I'm seeing a bit of a trend about the option courses, Biochemistry 102 versus Path 120, and how to choose, can you take both, as well as conflicts with certain electives. So I'll try to answer all of those in one somewhat cohesive, organized answer. So Biochem 102 is only offered in the fall term. If you wish to take a full year elective like Psych 100, it would mean that we would encourage you to take Path 120 in the winter term instead of Biochem, just so that you're not taking more than 5 courses per term, especially in your first term. It can be a lot. I know, 5 courses, 5 versus 6, how bad could it be? It can be a lot. So if you do want to take Psych 100, I would encourage you to take Path 120 as your option course. That way you take Psych 100 all year long, and then the Path will take up the option spot in the winter term. Now, looking at Biochem 102 versus Path 120, is there any sort of advantage to one versus the other, that sort of thing? I mean, I love teaching you all, but both courses prepare you for both programs. So regardless of which option you take, you'll still, even if you want to do biochemistry and you take Path 120, you'll still be set up for those the second year of the biochem program, just as well as someone who took Biochem 102. So that's not something to worry about, and they're both great courses with lots of interesting content. So there's no sort of doors being closed by taking one versus the other. There was one more point about it that I wanted to make, and I lost it now. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through your questions to try and remind myself what it was that I was going to say. Oh, can I take both Path and Biochem? Technically, yes, there are space limitations because of the rooms and that sort of thing. So, but if you can get into both, we don't say you can't take both courses. that was the last thing about the two. Um, have any other trending questions?
I see some trending ones, and apologies if you already kind of answered this, but I know I've answered a few questions already about which program sets you up better for future in research or neuroscience or medical school. Both life sciences and biochemistry do set you up well for any of those. So for research, whichever research programs you're interested in within that kind of science area. And for professional programs, so we've had students go into veterinary medicine, dentistry, medicine, pharmacy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, many graduate students. So in your fourth year, one of the things we mentioned earlier on is you can do a subject of specialization, so an SSP. If you do a subject of specialization, you can focus on a specific research area like neuroscience, that's one of the options, or cardiovascular sciences, or physiology, or biochemistry. There's options there. So if you have a specific graduate school area you're interested in, you can get in-depth research experience in one of those areas later on in your career as well, or as an undergraduate student later on. So it does set you up well for those. Of course, the really important thing to keep in mind is that all those health professional schools have their own admission requirements, and unfortunately, they are not standardized, meaning that medical schools will have different requirements based on the medical school. Some of them will require an English course, some of them don't. So make sure you're checking those, and it's very different for the different programs too, if you're looking at dentistry or veterinary medicine or whichever. So you're going to have to look at that, and just keep in mind that they are different. So that's sometimes a little bit tricky in general as well.
One thing to add to that too, just sort of maybe coming at that from a different angle as well, I would say anytime you find yourself thinking, okay, but which one is better? Maybe take a pause and interrogate that a little bit and say, okay, what do I mean when I say better? Like better in what way? Better to whom? What does this really mean? And so some of that can be details like looking at specific programs, like Dr. Mulder was saying, and some of it might even be saying, okay, well, what do I actually want out of a career, or even not looking that far ahead, what do I want out of my undergraduate studies at Queen's, and making a good solid choice that's going to be best for you right now. As you go through your years is always going to lead you to those next better steps every way along the path. So you're going to be doing yourself a favor.
I guess as I'm scrolling through, I'm seeing a lot of questions about minors as well. You know, what are good ones to supplement your degree? Should you be thinking about your minor now? That sort of thing. First thing is, if there is something you're thinking of minoring in, it is a good idea to try and think of it now. Many of them do have first year requirements. And then in terms of a good minor versus a like, there isn't kind of one size fits all answer for this. It's really about what are you interested in. And you know, especially with the move to the more modular degree framework, you can pair up a lot of different things. There are no restrictions on what you can minor in. So really it's what's interesting to you. So, you know, if you take an elective in first year and you find it super fascinating and you really want to continue to dive into that topic, it's certainly worth pursuing a minor in as well. Hope that answers all the questions about minors. I see the word minor a lot as I'm scrolling through.
Thanks everyone for all these good questions. This is good stuff.
Thank you so much for all that great information. And before we end this webinar, because it is now 8 o'clock, I would like to remind students to check out Viva Engage for a full calendar of all our SOAR events. And don't forget that we have a virtual social every Saturday in July, and you can schedule one-to-one or small group coffee chats with us, which are your SOAR peer ambassadors. And if you have any questions that you want to hear from an upper year perspective, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thanks everyone for joining, and have an amazing day.